Do you feel it? Something is coming. An intrusive pattern. Of staggering power. Reshaping reality as we know it. Everything we tried to keep inside eventually worms its way out.
Man.
You must have had good reasons. But we were not prepared. For what would follow.
Pace yourself. It's gonna get weirder.
So, this is what I think is going on, okay? So, in the first Control game, you had the Federal Bureau of Control, which operates as like a federal institution that deals with multi-dimensional or paranormal threats that basically became overrun by an extra-dimensional entity called the Hiss. And the Hiss found its way through a portal that established itself in the town where Dylan and Jesse Faden grew up as children. I don't know if this is the reason that they are the way they are, but essentially, Jesse and Dylan are both para-utilitarians, and that means that they're humans with the abilities to use these extra-dimensional energies and powers. In the very first game, the Hiss took over Dylan's mind, and Jesse ended up synchronizing with Polaris. Polaris was like order, and the Hiss was like pure chaos. And what it seems like is happening here, let me see if I can find it. A lot of these extra-dimensional things are characterized by artistic interpretation. This whole thing here reminds me of Polaris, but it's more chaotic. And Dylan says something is coming. So I think that basically there's a third entity. There's something other than Polaris and the Hiss. Because all of these prismatic, like mandala type shapes are reminiscent of Polaris, but this red that shows up, the red that's like seeping in, where is it? That is the Hiss. And at the end of the first game, you basically find a way to cleanse Dylan of the Hiss. And your entire struggle as the new director of FBC is trying to contain and cleanse the Hiss inside of the oldest house, which is a extra dimensional space that the Federal Bureau of Control operates out of. Now, as I'm looking at some of this stuff, we're seeing New York City, where they exist, right? We're seeing some Inception type shit going on here with buildings pointing the wrong way. Basically, it looks like extra dimensional energies probably leaking out of the oldest house and affecting New York City. The next thing we're seeing is this right here looks a whole lot like the mold that you actually spend a good portion of the game attempting to contain this mold inside of the oldest house. So this looks like it escaped entirely, and now it's taking over New York City. Let's keep going. What else do we got? This is what the Hiss infection looks like. This is what all of the inside of the Federal Bureau of Control looks like. This is what the Hiss does. It takes control of people. It levitates them after pretty much taking over their bodies and turning them into essentially zombies, for lack of a better term. This is the entrance to the Federal Bureau of Control. And I don't know. It looks like something broke out. Like all of the carnage pretty much is at the front door, and you're seeing dead FBC agents with blood spatter everywhere at the front. So I don't know what the implication is here. Maybe something broke out. Maybe Jesse tried to leave. Maybe they let something out. I'm really not certain with this. But either way, containment is broken. The world is now infected. Now, from what I've heard from game reports, this little scene here, after Dylan was cleansed by Jesse, he kind of fell into a coma for like 7 years. So there's going to be a 7-year time gap between what we played in the first game and what's going on here. We've got Jesse here watching over Dylan. And this right here, based off of the later gameplay, in order for Jesse to take control of the director's weapon, it's like a multi-dimensional gun. In the beginning of the game, she essentially had to shoot herself with this, and it ended up like fusing with her. So as terrifying as this looks, I think that this bar here is probably another type of service weapon, just like a melee form, and she's walking up and she's going to do what needs to be done to bond Dylan with this service weapon by basically stabbing him through the chest with it, straight Dante Devil May Cry style, which is crazy shit. This probably allows him to wake back up. This is what's interesting here. I don't know where he's at, bro. And I can't remember exactly the implication, but there was a part of the DLC in Alan Wake where Dylan was actually able to contact one of the FBC agents that was trying to figure out what was going on in Cauldron Lake. So by the time Alan Wake 2 is going on, Jesse might be missing, Dylan might be awake. The only reason he was evil is because he was infected by the hiss. So I don't think that he's necessarily an evil human. I think his mind was warped. I don't know what's going on here. This is crazy shit. Rise and shine. That's the board. Anytime that you're seeing these like subtitles and they don't make any sense, like they'll add two verbs together and they'll be like these little signs enclosing the statement. That's an extra dimensional group of individuals who pretty much they run the FBC. They call them the board. So clearly the board is aware that Jesse is gone. So biggest questions when you start the game: how did shit escape? Where did Jesse go? And what is the third entity that is now plaguing New York City? But, like, if you're watching right here, the service weapon that Jesse is able to use, the firearm, can transform itself into multiple different firearms, into submachine gun, handgun, hand cannon, shotgun, rifle. So I think that if the lore stands, these rods that have been binded to Dylan should be able to take multiple forms of melee weapon. Because see here, he's got these big ass blades here, and he just he shirks them on the ground, but he's still got the rods. So you're probably going to have a lot of different melee weapons that you can transform your shit into. And this is what's super interesting, is when he's walking up here, I'm going to pause it, you clearly see all of these hiss zombies in the red hue of the hiss inside of these buildings. But what the fuck is this, bro? What is this? I feel like that's the third entity that got out. And it's just over all of New York. And now he's the only one that the board is in contact with that can do anything about it. Because in reality, it could have been Dylan or Jesse. And in fact, the difference between Dylan and Jesse is that Dylan was captured by the Federal Bureau of Control and experimented on with the purpose of making him the director one day. Jesse didn't. Jesse lived like a somewhat regular life. So whether Dylan likes it or not, he kind of was he was groomed for this, for what's going on. He was raised for this. He actually might be a stronger para-utilitarian than Jesse, because Jesse was just coming into her power, where Dylan has been born and raised in it fucking Bane style, you know what I'm saying? She just found the darkness. This man didn't see the light till he was already full grown. But outside of lore implications, I think the coolest thing that they're doing right now is Remedy is not allowing themselves to get trapped into a particular formula. They're clearly not gonna go for the run and gun telekinetic superpowers that they did. Like, clearly Dylan's gonna have powers, but the melee aspect of this is the shit's gonna go way different. This game's going to play much, much different. In fact, it's funny, the other night Berserkso was talking about Prototype. I wouldn't be surprised if there wasn't an aspect of gameplay here that was reminiscent of something like Prototype. Because I think it's going to be an open world thing where you get to explore all of New York. I'm very excited for this. This is huge. Control, if everything I said just flew over your head and my explanation means absolutely nothing to you, that means that you haven't played Control. And it is very cheap. It was for the PS4, So the price has been reduced multiple times. You need to go play Control. Control's fucking awesome. This game was so good it made me go back and play Alan Wake 1, Alan Wake 2. I feel personally like Control is a better introduction into the Remedy video game universe than Alan Wake is, because Alan Wake's like survival horror and it's a little bit harder to grasp onto if that's not your thing. But man, this right here, I am so fucking lit for this game.